Hi, in this tutorial I will show you how to build a Hello World REST service using the Nabu Development Platform. I'm assuming you already saw the other tutorials to set up an application, so we'll just dive right into the REST service. Let's first create a folder, and in that we create a REST provider service. Let's call it Hello World. And then you're greeted by an API screen where you can fill in a number of parameters. So let's start with the method. We shall do a get on the path /hello. We could work with query parameters or header or whatever else. We'll just skip that for now. We can do security through roles or permissions or both, and we can do inputs and other features as well, and there's some advanced configuration that we'll get into later. For now, let's just switch to the implementation tab. As you can see, it is you're greeted by the blocks interface. For now, we have no input and no output, so let's go back to the API and let's define the output as a stream, which just tells REST service that it should be binary content. And you could use this to stream, for example, an image or whatever else you would need to do. But in this case, we're just gonna use it to do hello world. So let's add a map statement. Again, I assume you've seen the tutorial for the block services as well, so I'll just dig right in. We set a value, fixed value hello world on the content. We can even run the service to check that it works fine. And as you can see, it is returned as an input stream in this particular case. And if we now switch to the browser, you see we already have a Swagger here, and we need to add this REST service to the application to actually expose it as well. So let's just add it to the web fragments and save, refresh, and we see the operation ID coming here. As you can see, the response is simply defined as an octet stream because we don't know at this point what is in there, at least not from the definition. So let's add Swagger UI as well, so we can actually see visually the Swagger. So let's go to Swagger UI, and then you can see that we have the Hello World REST service here, which we can then run. As you can see, in the response body, we get the Hello World string that we put in here. We could make this slightly more complex, and we could, for example, add a query parameter. So let's add a message here. And as you can see, it is added here. We by default assume it's going to be array and optional, which you can again see from the definition here. So let's say it's a singular value, and we might even make it mandatory, but I would suggest that you put in a path at that point, so let's leave it optional. And at this point, we could then use the message coming in here, and we could just say hello world, and then we add the message. And if we then refresh our Swagger UI, you can see that we have a new parameter here. So let's add this as a test, try it out. As you can see, we get the value back that we would think of. If we now take one step further, is that we want to have a defined output here. So the binary output again is mostly used for images and actual binary content, very rarely to do messaging. For that we use structured items. So let's add a structure here, hello response, and in it we could add a number of fields. For example, we could say a message, we could maybe do an echo of whatever you send us. The root name of the element is descriptive in a lot of cases, but in some cases it does matter. So let's just set to hello. If we now go to the API here, we can actually set this. Let's unset this one, and we set the response here. And at this point, we can actually just map the message to the echo, because we just want to echo back whatever you send us. And let's set the fixed value here, hello world. We actually get rid of this map statement. Okay, so if we again refresh, we see that we now have the message type here, and we can add the message. This is another test. If we try it out, we get the structured message back here, as we would assume. We could also do it as XML, and then you get the message back. Apart from these, you can actually request other types as well if you enable them. For example, you could request it as a CSV or an Excel file or whatever binding is available. Some bindings do have restrictions on the complexity of the data types. but usually we just use JSON, obviously. What I also wanted to show you is what happens when there's an error. So let's just add a throw, which means it's not conditional, it's just thrown every time you run it. So if we now run this service, you can see that we get a response body back, which is a defined structure. And again, you could also request this as XML, and you'll get it back as an XML. And what's in this message is quite interesting. So you have the status, which is the HTTP code, which is 500 in this particular case. You have the title of the message, which is descriptive. You have a unique identifier, which you can in the backend bind to whatever logging you might enable, so you can actually find back this particular exception. You have a code. This code we'll get back into very soon. And you have a description. Now this description is actually a stack trace, as you can see. And this is only available in development mode. So if the server is running in development mode, you get a stack trace. If it's running in production mode, you do not get the stack trace, obviously. But this is very generic. So you have to assume in production you only get these 4 fields, which does not tell you a lot. Sometimes you do need to give more information, but the default is we don't show anything. So let's add a code. My error, for example, and a message. This is my error. Okay. So now we have a descriptive throw, but if we actually run it here, we still get the same back. Because like I said, by default, we hide any information. To look at the server log, you would actually see the exception here. So you would get the code here and your own message. So from the error logs, you can deduce what happened, and from the events in the backend, it gets sent out to notifications as well. But from the front end, you cannot deduce what went wrong, unless you whitelist the error code. So we have a whitelisted codes here, and we could just add a whitelist for my error. And if we then run this, you can see we still get a 500, but we do get the code my error. And now we get the message, this is my error. So now you can actually start giving information back to the client if it is relevant. So that's it for this initial demo. There's again a lot more to be told, as is always the case, but this should get you started with REST services. So hope it was interesting. Thank you very much.